We got some singing coming up. That's as deep as I'm going to go with carrying a tune on InGoal Radio, the podcast. Welcome to it. Darren Millard, along with the co-founder of InGoal Magazine, David Hutchison. You'll hear from Kevin Woodley on a couple of occasions in just a little bit with our gear segment. Brought to you by The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Langley. And the feature interview this week will catch up with Washington Capitals goaltending coach Scott Murray in a long, great conversation involving Kevin Woodley. But Hutch, we got a lot going on between the Hockey Shop, Sensorina bringing us our feature interview, and over at the magazine.
We got tons going on. It just feels like Christmas is right around the corner. There's snow outside my window. I'm guessing there's not much snow outside your window in Vegas. No,
and I was surprised that there was as much snow in your hood as what happened over the last 10 days or so.
We got a little hammered. Do you miss it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I totally miss it. Yeah. But then I get over it, and I go chip, and I go work at my short game, and then I'm all right.
I'll be happy when it's gone here too. Hey, Christmas is just around the corner, and I would just like to put out a notice to everybody out there who listens, all the loyal InGoal Radio listeners. We would love it as you're doing your Christmas shopping. We've got two opportunities for you. One, you've heard me mention it before, and I'm going to say it again, a gift membership to InGoal Premium is an incredible gift for any goaltender. You know, as soon as they get it, they will have access to more than 650 articles over at InGoal Premium, plus another full year to come. When you order that gift for them, they're going to get a little notice on whatever day you want, with whatever fancy message you want. You can even download a little gift certificate with one of your favorite goalies on it, and you can put it in their stocking, put it on their tree, whatever you think. Just a great way to learn. And as so many people tell us, one of the best ways you can become a better goaltender is the content that we're putting together each week. Pro reads, pro tips, pro drills, so much great content over there. Great gift for any goalie in your life. It's less than $50 Canadian. What's that, like $35 American? Mm-hmm. Fantastic investment. Now, the other one, we've mentioned this before, but sort of went quiet, but it's now all tidied up. We have a premium podcast channel. If you want to get through all of the feature interviews, if you want to be quick because you're in the car just for a little while, you don't want to listen to Woody and Darren and me just chatting about what's been going on in the goalie world lately. Probably what happened lately in the goalie world, if you go back to some of our early interviews, isn't quite as relevant. You just want to get to the meat of those feature interviews, then our premium podcast channel is for you. Right now, there are over 200 feature interviews published there. If you would like to go and join. And it's more than 200. We're only on episode 196 here, but you know, we've had a bunch of episodes where we've had more than one interview. Those are all posted over there. If you head over to ingoalmag.com, you'll very quickly find out how you can be a subscriber to our premium podcast channel, or you can send a gift subscription to that as well. Another opportunity there if you'd like to help out the very favorite goalie in your life. And yeah, that includes yourself. You're allowed to buy the odd present for yourself at this time of year. Don't you think?
Well,
Darren?
I think the premium membership is outstanding because if you've got a child, a young adult, and we as parents always battling, get off your phone, get off a line, go do something. And you know that they're playing hockey, obviously, because you're listening to this podcast. But this puts them online or on their phone for a good reason. They're learning. It's great, educational, and it's outstanding to build their game and build the mental side, the physical side, the strategic side. I think there's a lot in there to be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, as a goalie parent, I would just say I know that a lot of people probably think, "Wow, is it right for my young son, my young daughter? Is it something they'd want?" Because kids these days, they just want to Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is. It's something you could do together, or what I will do sometimes, because I've got a 16-year-old who doesn't want to read through all the articles, I'll just call him down and say, "Hey, here's the latest pro read. You might want to take a look." And he just watches the video and gets something out of it every time. He's got a good comment to me every time about something he's noticed I haven't noticed. And they don't need to be interested in sitting down and going through all the articles on the website. You can just give them little snippets and a great chance to learn without asking them to study something for half an hour a day. It's a 2, 3, 4 minute commitment as they check out each week's pro read or whatever the latest drill is. I really think there's something there for goaltenders, pretty much of all ages and ability.
Wow. I'm going to admit something. All right.
What's that?
I love you guys. I love what we do. I love the interviews. They're amazing. The access that we have with NHL goaltenders, goalie coaches worldwide, it's incredible. There is nothing available on the goaltending map like pro rates. It is the most unique, most special, most influential as far as how you approach the game as anything you will find out there without going and sitting down with Ryan Miller or James, like any of these guys that have done it, a long list of guys. It is a spectacular element. And this is one person's opinion. It's the best. Everything else is awesome. That's the most unique thing that you're going to find.
Easily worth it just for the pro reads. In fact, I sat down with Brian DeCord this week, Darren. He's going to be a feature guest on the show in the next few weeks. And I asked him the question, how do you learn how to read the game? We talk about it in so many of our interviews on the show about the ability to read the game at an elite level makes all the difference. Goaltenders of all levels can stop the shots. Every goaltender in the NHL can stop most of the shots they're going to face. It's that ability to read the game that makes the difference between a good goaltender and a great goaltender. And so I said to Brian, how do you learn how to read the game? And, well, rather than tell you, we'll just get Jimmy in the sound booth to cue it up and we'll play it now.
Jimmy.
Well, not blowing smoke, but InGoal Magazine, that's what you guys are doing.
Oh, thanks.
No, but yeah. Honestly, like this is what your pro reads.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is how the game is read, and you're not going to get enough reps playing. So you've got to watch.
So there you go.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
How cool is that? That is perfect. Right from him.
Yeah,
so now that means DeCord and I call him Dak. Dak and I, we're the same person. Like I could be a goalie expert like Dak is because we agree on that.
He's going to be excited to hear that because I guarantee he's listening right now.
Well, I didn't even know that. No, he should because I mean only cool people that know me really well call me Mallard. But I didn't know he said that. And so we're coming at that from two different angles. He's obviously an elite when it comes to an instructor and a teacher of the game, and I'm just a viewer and somebody that likes to play in his latter years, and it's just a huge benefit. I love it. Good job. And sign up for that premium subscription because it gives you everything. All the access that you want. We got a lot going on with that. And what's the price again for the premium membership?
$49.99 Canadian, which is $36 US. It's less than $1 a week. Which for everything you're getting there, it's a no-brainer. We honestly have had people in the last 3 weeks. We've had people tell us to both double and triple the price. We've been holding the line as long as we can, and just want to keep delivering great value to people.
You know what I say? It's $49.99. We throw in like 2.5 weeks free. That's what we do because of the 52 weeks.
Oh, I hear you.
That's my new marketing ploy with you. Hey, you got another? I saw the survey that went out. You got any feedback from that?
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, we don't have any results yet because they all have to get churned and sorted through by the marketing company. But what I did want to mention is that another one went out this week. So they actually, in previous years, we've helped them out and they've had one big survey. They split it into two, and another one went out Monday, I believe it was, yesterday, and it will finish up this weekend. Quick little opportunity, and it is one more chance to win a custom set of gear. And it's not the same custom set as the last survey. It is another custom set. Yeah.
Second.
So if you are on our email list, you will have received that email already. You'll get a reminder towards the end of the week. If you're not, there's two ways you can get on it. One, go subscribe to InGoal Premium and we'll make sure you get the email at the end of the week, excuse me. Or you can just head over to ingoalmag.com. As you scroll down, you see a little promo there for premium, and you can enter your email address in there, and you will then get on our list. There's no commitment to purchase anything at that point, but you will receive the survey. It is today, December the 6th. There's less than a week left. I think it's the 11th this shuts down. So if you're listening to this at a future date, I'm sorry we can't get you a survey. It closes when it closes. But if you hurry over there in the next couple of days, you can still get a chance to get in on this quick 15-minute survey and a chance to win some custom gear.
Awesome. I did the last one, so I'll be right on top of this one. Not that I'm asking for any free gear or win the set, because I believe family and friends are not, of hosts, are not eligible for that contest win. Did you see some of the footage from over at the hockey shop, Source for Sports Langley?
Better believe it.
Like it's beautiful.
It's incredible.
And everything new is great, but just it's like a different planet.
It's incredible. It is incredible. We're so excited about what's happening over at the hockey shop Source for Sports Langley, and the new facility is incredible. If you haven't seen it, please go check out our YouTube channel, where you can see the tour from last week as Cam showed Woody around the shop. You can see this incredible, huge facility, much more space for all the goalie gear. They're not in the basement anymore. They've got this beautiful corner. They used to have to hide half their gear in the back because they didn't have the chance. Now it's in a giant wall of pads, another wall of masks, another wall of chesties. It's absolute Candyland.
Bags, bags. There's a wall of bags,
I know
which
that's
you
what
can actually
excites
see.
you, hey?
Okay,
yeah.
Well, I like it because I can go. Okay, I can fit my stuff in that, or I like the way that's it. Like something as simple as that.
Oh, it's incredible, and it's it puts a smile on your face every time you see it, for sure. So the other thing they did, Cam and Woody have always talked about the old hockey shop. They refer to the goalie section as Goalie Utopia. They said, what do you think we should call this one? Does it deserve a new name? We've had a bunch of people leave comments on the videos with their ideas. Let us know. Maybe your name would get picked. Maybe you get some fancy credit from Cam and the boys over at the shop. But we do want to, Darren, thank the hockey shop, Source for Sports Langley, for sponsoring the podcast every week. We do encourage you to head over to the website this week, because they've got another huge sale on for the holidays. There's over 500 items on sale. I think in the goalie section, it's 180 some odd different pieces of gear that you can purchase at a greatly discounted rate. We know this is the place to go, not just because they have this unbelievable new flagship store, but if you can only shop online because you don't live in and near Vancouver, you can still get them to help you with all of your custom needs, whether you want to buy something from the new big brands, like something like the new Bauer Connect skate, or maybe you want to get some custom design on your Bauer or CCM Access pads, or just incredible what you can do with the guys, because they're all about service, right? You know that when you get to know Cam and the boys. Everybody who works in there is a goaltender in the goalie corner, not just guys who are looking for a job. These are people who live and breathe the position. They're as passionate about it as you and I are. And if you go in there and you look for gear, they're going to make sure that you have what you need for your game. So I really encourage people, give them a call. You don't even have to just browse the website. Pick up the phone, call Cam, call somebody in the goalie department, tell them what you're thinking, tell them what you need, and they're going to make sure that you get in the right set of equipment for you or your son or your daughter. And hey, speaking of dropping your email address to us, Darren, so that you can get on the survey, every month the hockey shop gives away a $250 gift card to somebody on their email list. So if you're not on their list yet, no commitment, just go put your email address in there and you might be the next winner. And $250 might be almost enough to get you the new stick that we look at in the gear segment this week.
Ooh, that's really
Maybe
good,
not
because
quite.
I'm looking at masks. I'm down to the coveted, the Bauer, and the CCM. I know that's not really nailing it down or narrowing it down that much, but I'm down to 3.
Well, you probably play
so
3 times a week.
You like get one of each? Is that what
Yeah,
you're thinking?
yeah. Your Monday mask, your Tuesday mask.
Yes, I like that idea. Now I found a kindred spirit
3
with
paint
this whole
jobs
shopping
you can
thing.
have, like so many options.
Yes. And now I've got to get this new stick because this week's gear segment dealing with the Warrior Ritual M2i stick. And there's some really neat features coming with this twig.
I got to admit, I don't get as jazzed about sticks when we're doing the reviews because I don't know. Like, to me, I don't have the skill to handle a stick well enough for it to make a big difference. I know a lot of you, it really does make a big difference. But this one got me pretty excited, Darren, because there's innovation in it. And when you get through listening to the intro of the, oh, you know what? We teased that there was some singing, but there isn't.
Yes.
There isn't on the podcast version, I don't think. I think you might have to head over to the YouTube channel to see Cam singing us into this week's video. I'm pretty sure I didn't want to ruin any eardrums if people were just listening.
Well, it's the stick is though it's thin to win, right?
But when when you head over there, you'll see there's this unique geometry to the stick. You really do need to go to the YouTube channel. We're gonna hear the audio here, but as we mention every week, they're also published in video over on YouTube, and you can see this unique geometry on the shaft of the stick. And when I see technology, as you know, I get super excited and I want to try this stick.
And why you need this stick in your hand is of further benefit, considering the crackdown that's occurring in the National Hockey League on goalies playing the puck. We'll tell you about that after we tee up the gear segment with Cam and Woody over at the Hockey Shop, source for Sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com, with the Warrior Ritual M2i.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. We're not down here in Goalie Utopia. We're on this. We don't have a basement to hide in, folks.
No.
We're in 34,000 square feet of spectacular hockey shop. We're in the goalie corner. We've been trying to...
The goalie corner?
Well, I don't know what we're calling it. Like,
we had a couple
huge.
of good suggestions on there.
There were some suggestions. We're going to sort through them. Keep the suggestions coming on what we should call this. I still think it's Goalie Utopia. Whether we call it Goalie Utopia or not, that's what it is, surrounded by the latest and greatest. And this week, that means the new Warrior RM2i with probably the craziest shaft I've ever seen. Cam, walk me through what ASG is and how it's going to help me snap sauce up ice and get apples. Is that what the kids say?
Oh, goodness.
I tried.
Asymmetrical geometry.
Asymmetrical geometry. Kind of. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, good, because I was going to get you to say it five times fast. So, shaft. This is a cool new thing Warriors dropped for the M2i stick. So, when we look at it and we get a closer look, it's all rounded. There's no flat points on the stick itself.
Which helps with breakage.
To me, this is a big...
Sharp corners are what break when you get the shots off the shaft.
We haven't even talked about like the actual why yet, and I've already been like, okay, this is awesome. One of the cool things is how it's indented inside as you kind of run your hand from actually where you're holding the stick with your blocker up to about midpoint to the top. It's concave, so that's going to allow you to bring your glove in and actually almost fit it and wedge it into the stick, almost locking it in, creating a better torque point for the stick itself when you go play that puck.
So it's all about the puck handle with this.
Puck handling stick, 100%. And they've chosen their M series sticks to base it off of, which is their mid-kick point stick. As you can see, again, has that cutout.
Minimus carbon cutout, on the back of the paddle.
So it's allowing that stick to nice and flex, nice and well, and some great pop-off.
Low kick point, right?
Low kick point. Did I say mid-kick point?
No, I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying, but I know it's a low kick point. The minimus lines.
So let's try it again. Low kick point.
Low kick point. Much like our IQs on this show, it is low. Unique geometry, like you said, on the ASG. It really is crazy. We'll take it in the stick room and have a look. Other features on this, because to be honest with you, this is new. It's innovative. It practically sells itself. The fact it's got that low kick point for just sort of quick, easy little flex on the stick, and it's going to give you nice sharp passing.
So the stick itself is still based off of M2 Pro Plus, right? So we're
which has
the same
minimus.
weight. Yeah, and the same minimus carbon count. So we're still coming in, I think we measured at 27.5 around 600 grams, maybe just a touch above. So obviously some of the smaller sizes will run in a little bit lower than that. But I mean, to me, weight and balance feel of the stick generally off the bat, it doesn't feel any different than, say, like a normal M2 Pro Plus, meaning that shaft geometry isn't changing the feel of the stick, just in terms of
changing the balance point.
Exactly. So what I want to do, and I can't wait, and I'm sure some of the guys want to see as well, and all the other goalies want to see, how it shoots.
Well, I mean, we're going to let you do that because I think my beer league team, when they heard that it's a shooting stick, automatically said Kevin's not allowed to buy it. They don't like it when I go out of the net.
That's fine. I'll go sauce them into the net for you.
One quick thing before we check out how it shoots. 2 patterns available in this one.
2 options.
What are they?
Twist, which is very similar to a Bauer P31. Also, the Crawford curve in CCM's nomenclature. And then your Jonathan Quick curve, which they also call their mid curve.
What I got right here.
So once again, we're having something with a little bit more hook. Again, personal preference comes into play here. Personally speaking, between the two, I like the P31, or what we call the twist curve, in Warriors nomenclature.
Is that what you got, or is that the mid?
I've got the twist. And again, the mid being a little bit straighter with a good hook right starting from the mid of the stick and up. Reference our older curve video if you do want to check that out a little bit more. But that all said, again, those 2 options in terms of for quick patterns. And then for color wise, we only got that one option, but it really, really pops. You can really see that shine of that stick with that chrome lettering for sure.
I did notice on the giant stick rack, because the stick rack size is even bigger here at the new location for the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. There are a bunch of, in other Warrior lines, they've got
the M2 lines,
bunch of new colorways that just came in.
Some new chrome shine, perfect for the holidays.
I've seen some blue, I've seen some red, I've seen all kinds of different colors. This one's only available like this, but as Cam said, there are other options if you want to make sure that the goalie reaches under the tree and gets something that matches his gear. They've got it all here. If you got any questions about the new Warrior RM2i or any of the other sticks and any of the color options, how it plays for you, how it's going to work in your game, make sure you give Cam a call here at the Hockey Shop. Where?
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790. Or you can even email us at sales@thehockeyshop.com.
And don't forget, new location out here in Langley if you want to check them out in person or online, thehockeyshop.com. They'll have all these new twigs up for you to check out. Like I said, the new RM2i or different colorways in the other models, all will be available online at thehockeyshop.com.
Well, that's innovation that I never really thought of, getting thinner up there, because space. I make saves off the shaft of my stick, by the way. A lot of them. That's where I break most of my sticks nowadays, is because the pucks hit up there, a little crack, and it's like they're compromised, just like a player's stick on a face-off or a slap shot, and a little nick out of it, and boom, it's broken. So I'm a little concerned my save percentage may go down, but if the technology works and it's that much of a benefit, that makes up for it.
And as they mentioned in the video, there's a chance that new geometry is going to provide a little bit more stability too. So maybe your stick's going to last a little bit longer. Your stick budget goes a little bit further while you're enjoying this great new technology. How many times have you had people told you were lucky for making that shaft save?
All the time.
Doesn't it drive you nuts?
All the time. Yeah.
If you make as many shaft saves as you do, it's not luck, it's skill.
Well, I still think it's lucky. It's more them hitting it, because I'm not really trying to put it there. It's got a lot to do with my lie, or remember lies used to be a thing. Lie 14, lie 13, lie 15. It's got more to do with that. But I like to tell, because it bugs the forwards so much when I say, hey, what do you mean? That's a piece of my equipment. That's a save 100%. Right there. Why, if that wasn't meant to stop the puck, why would there be this long handle up there? Sorry, buddy.
Oh, geez. Speaking of future guests, remember the Corey Hirsch piece on Sportsnet where he was showing some of the suggestions for cutting down goaltending equipment years ago, one of which included getting rid of that shaft.
Yeah, that didn't go over very well.
No.
I was working with him then. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I need that.
I'm going to lose the
my
union
Sunday
card.
night league at the time.
Yeah.
Now my Thursday night skate. So if you use the stick, you can grab it throw it up to your forwards, maybe take a shot on goal. It's awesome. You move that puck forwards. Hate having defensive zone faceoffs. They want you to grab that puck and they want you to move it. One thing we've learned is the stick is a great tool to move that puck, as opposed to just grabbing the puck, say you catch it, and you throw it. And I didn't realize this, but a goalie can't do that.
Maybe it's in the spirit of the World Cup of soccer being on right now, but goalkeepers love to grab the ball and throw it as far as they can up the pitch. That we had something sort of interesting happen a couple of times this weekend. And credit, please, to one of our listeners, Yannick Doyon. I hope I got that right, Yannick. He's a professor at the University of Laval in Montreal, and he works on gene editing. So this guy's brain is way above our pay grade. But he sent along a clip of John Gibson this weekend, Saturday, in overtime against Minnesota, catches the puck and fires it forward. I think it went most of the way up to the blue line, called for a penalty. Ultimately, that penalty was not determining what happened in the game. It went to a shootout before Minnesota won in the shootout. Turns out the very next day, in a Minnesota game again, Scott Wedgwood caught a puck in overtime, also threw the puck forward, and this time the referee didn't get it. And but I just wanted to make sure I was right on this. I was sure that it had to be a penalty. Looked it up in the NHL rulebook. For those who are sticklers, 67.3. A goalkeeper shall be assessed a minor penalty when he throws the puck forward towards the opponent's net.
Oh, so that's the key word. Forward.
You can throw it into the corner. You
can pass it to the side or to back. And,
rugby rules maybe.
And set up your defenseman with that, like play it to a defenseman off to the corner. But if you move it forward, you're in violation.
Yeah, laterals are okay. The forward pass is not okay. Yeah.
Wow. Wonder why that rule exists. I mean, now forwards can make a hand pass in the defensive zone. They can't grab it and throw it.
That's illegal.
Nope. But you can make a hand pass. I just wonder, and to be honest, it never occurred to me a goaltender making a hand pass or throwing it. It happens so little. I've seen guys kneel down and roll it or toss it that way, I guess. But I wonder why that rule existed way back when.
I think Pekka Rinne did it not too many years ago as well. I think it could easily be back when we had gloves very much the same as players and maybe just beefed up a little bit more like a cricket wicketkeeper's gloves or something, where you had the ability to throw it, but also it's really, as you've pointed out earlier, it's the same as the rule for players. You can't close your hand on the puck and throw it forward. And so it's really some consistency. So just because we have the ability to catch and close our hand on the puck doesn't suddenly give us the ability to throw it forward either.
I'm just surprised that there's a specific mention of the goalkeeper, and it's not just a defensive zone restriction. Could
that be a history from something like soccer where a goalkeeper had that role? I don't know. I don't know. I wish they'd let us do it, but
into that.
Yeah.
I know a couple of rule geniuses, and thank you to the Gene. What was the name of the gentleman?
Yannick Doyon.
Yannick Doyon.
At Doyon Lab on Twitter, for those who want to go check him out.
Easily our smartest listener. I guarantee that. Appreciate it. But I'm gonna check into that. Just exactly why that rule is in there and why it specifically mentions goaltenders when it's already there to stop defensive zone closing the hand of the puck and allowing you to make a hand pass, but along the ice. All right, now getting distracted here. Want to mention one more time, just great friends over at the Hockey Shop. Also our cool connection with Sensorina VR. So much happening here. And you talk about a cool present under the tree with the ability to work on your game. The feature interview is presented by Sensorina VR. It's coming up, Scott Murray. But What about the headset and what you can do with that?
Oh, lots of cool stuff this week, Darren. Lots of cool stuff because of my conversation with Brian DeCord, who works with Sense Arena, as we know. I put it on again this week. I was watching my son do a little bit of training. I said, okay, I got to get in there. Let me have a few shots here, see what's going on. And it had been a while since I put it on, and I couldn't believe the changes to the interface. I mean, one of the things about Sense Arena, because you're paying sort of a license fee, it's an ongoing license to use the software in Sense Arena. There's updates coming all the time, and I couldn't believe the changes to the user interface. I switched out of the traditional rink that you work in, and I got into the New Jersey Devils practice rink where I was taking my shots. And one of the things that we noticed that had changed is the leaderboards, where you can compare your score to other goaltenders at your level. They now include full names. It used to be an initial and a last name.
Yes.
And and the full name. And all of a sudden, Maddie was like, oh, hey, I've played against this guy. Oh, I know this guy. Yves Gascon, who played in the Quebec League, she was up on one of the leaderboards near him. A couple of other goaltenders, one of them who'd been in Vancouver before him, David Tendek, was on one of the leaderboards. Just, it made it a little bit more community-like and exciting to do so. And then we just got to work with the software again, and it's just mind-blowing. One of the pieces I've mentioned before, we're going to actually use in a video in the next couple of days that we'll get up, Darren. They have the puck cannon. I don't know if you've tried that. But the puck cannon lets you get the same shot over and over again to the same location. So you can replicate a save and really work on drilling in a technique. We used it to replicate a particular drill that we showed at InGoal. Maybe it was in the summer. Bonus points if you can think of what that drill might have been and what the puck cannon was good for. I will tell you that by the end of it, my son was practicing heading pucks into the corner just because he's a teenager.
I love him. I love him because that was exactly what was running through my head.
He was doing it. Just incredible what Sense Arena can do for your training. But here is the big news. One, an incredible savings still on for the holidays. If you want to see a Sense Arena set under the tree, 35% off right now, which includes the free Quest 2 headset and the controllers. They've sort of carried on the sale from Black Friday through the holidays. Great opportunity to get it. Incredible gift. Not only will you have Sense Arena, but you'll have access to all of the virtual reality games and activities through the Quest 2 headset. Use the code IGM50 and you'll save even more on top of that incredible holiday sale. Now, the best news, I think, how many times, I know, Darren, you've done this before, but most of us have said to ourselves before, I wish I could step in and face an NHL shooter and just see what it's like. Very, very soon, there will be NHL shooters in Sense Arena. Right now, you face live shooters on video, but they're European pros, some incredible shooters in there already to really challenge you. But how cool is it that there'll be NHL players shooting on you soon? Can't wait.
That is awesome.
Incredible.
So what you do is you do your session, and then you go to Hockey DB and you look it up and go, I stopped that guy who scored 35 goals in 1 year in the NHL. Or
is that what you did?
Whatever
after
stats they are.
Is that what you did after a Vegas skate? You looked up to see who had knocked the shaft off your stick?
Yeah. No, the guy that hits the shaft more than anybody I've ever skated with is Eichel.
Really?
More than any person, and we laugh about it, he and I, because it's so accurate. Like, he's beating you clean, but he's hitting that shaft, and he says it's always stopping. It's one of his not to speak out of turn, but one of those little pet peeves that bugs players, and he's so on it.
Darren, I don't know, you might be giving some secrets away. There's going to be some NHL goalie coaches listening right now. They're doing their pre-scout on Eichel. They're going to be doing shaft saves this week in practice to get ready for him.
Well, I can tell you what, he's not getting any shaft right now around the net because he is on fire. I know he's banged up this week, but he's having a heck of a season watching him, and that release is so cool to watch. But I'll take any advantage against somebody like that. So it's cool, Sensorita, giving you NHL shooters.
Unbelievable. I don't know if they're going to be there yet because I actually don't know what form they're going to take, but I think it would be so cool if you could just, I want to face Shea Weber's slap shot. I want to face Jack Eichel's wrist shot, or Austin Matthews' drag and release off the wrong foot. I mean, like,
how cool would that be?
I wish I could see everybody's very specific thing. Hey, here's another question just along those lines that came up around the house here today when Maddie looked up at me, said, if you could play in one NHL game against one team, who would you want to play against? So
like right now?
Right now, yeah. Assuming you had the skill to pull it off.
Yeah, if you're going to get an opportunity to play in a game, you've got a certain level of talent, so you're confident. I would want to play Edmonton, just to face Connor McDavid and see what it's like to see that speed on the ice. Toronto was also on my mind there because of the talent that exists offensively, but to be able to play Leon and the likes of Connor McDavid, that would be fascinating just to see how fast it really is.
Yeah.
How about you?
He had the same answer. No, mine was much more strategic. I said, do I get to pick who I play for as well?
Yes.
And I said, I'd like to play. Yeah. So I said, I'd like to play for the New Jersey Devils against the Anaheim Ducks because maybe I have a shot.
Yes. I'm with you on that. Arizona, I take my chances against Arizona too.
Yeah. I've got way more respect for you two wanting to face McDavid and Draisaitl though.
Just to see it, it's like when you get a chance to stand near the glass in a game and you realize how big and fast the game is. Even though there's not the level of physicality that there used to be, there's still so much bumping that goes on and intensity on the ice. That would be wild to watch Connor McDavid come down on you in that type of situation and try and match that speed.
I don't think people realize how fast the game is. If you only have watched on TV, you haven't seen the speed that you can see when you go to see the game live. And if you've been even in a good seat in the lower bowl somewhere, you're still not seeing the same speed as if you go stand on the glass, or if you're lucky enough to stand on the bench for a practice or something. Like, the closer and closer you get, and then I have no doubt, Darren, when you're standing in the net, that it seems 5 times as fast as it does when you're standing on the bench as well.
Well, that's why I feel real respect for the goaltending coaches in the National Hockey League. We've got Scott Murray coming up here from the Washington Capitals. They have to sit there and they talk to the goaltender. Well, why did you make that choice? Could you have made this choice? What about this save selection? And the goaltender's looking at them going, do you know how fast that's happening? right. And they have to have this ongoing relationship with 32 teams and all these goaltenders doing this kind of thing. So Scott Murray, and I love this interview that Woody has with Scott, because you have a teacher and you have a goaltender, and they happen at different times. The goalie came first, and then he went to college and became a teacher. But you put those two together, it really did create almost the perfect scenario for a goaltending coach.
It did, and I loved how you introduced it, Darren, just what it must be like to go up to an NHL goaltender and question them on what they're doing, because this interview talks about Scott's evolution from goaltender to young coach, going out there on the ice with Braden Holtby, a Vezina Trophy winner, and having to find his place and his way of offering his thoughts and his advice and to make an impact on his game. And I think listening to that whole journey is a fascinating look again at how you can develop as a young coach, how you can develop a career in the game, as I know so many people listening to this podcast would like to do. And then I think even for the people who are established in the game already, it's a very interesting listen, because there's some great stuff in there about communication, about leadership, about how you work with an athlete. And I have no doubt that Scott's training as a teacher will have a big impact on him, and has had a big impact on him. So yeah, I just love listening to the whole thing. And then the relationship with Mitch Korn, of course, the sort of Yoda of goaltending coaches. learning to work with him and to hear a little bit about how he approached his role with Scott, I think is a great lesson in leadership as well.
There's a lot of geography in this conversation, talking about Lake Superior State and then going up to Sudbury, and that journey, both metaphorically and physically along that line, and his career that and he makes fun of his career, but how that guided him in through it, and enough procrastination. This is the Sense Arena feature interview. Scott Murray, love this and love some of the messaging in it with Kevin Woodley on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
Really excited to welcome to the InGoal Radio Podcast. I hope he's as good for the next little bit as he was for the past hour with me and him just shooting the crap like it was a Sudbury Saturday night. Scott Murray, Washington Capitals goaltending coach, longtime friend of the program, but never on the program. Welcome. Thank you for joining the InGoal Radio Podcast for the first time officially.
Thanks, Kevin. Obviously, our conversations have been awesome, so looking forward to doing it on air.
Okay, so I want to get into I'm not even sure what I want to get into because you and I talk often enough that sometimes it becomes a little forest for the trees. All the things that I assume everyone knows, I'm not sure. So I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I'm not going to ask you about goalie coaching. I'm going to ask you about goalie playing. Had a career with some teams that's what we call it. We'll still call it that. NCAA, couple of years of minor pro with some teams that, quite frankly, the Motor City Mechanics in leagues that I don't think are around anymore. Where did it start for you?
Well, it started in minor hockey. I'm going to give you my career in a nutshell. Kevin McCarthy, our assistant coach, says it the best. I was a good room guy, but I didn't stay there. That was the problem. So that's my career. But I started in minor hockey in a small town in Southern Ontario, and then eventually went to play junior in Chatham, which would be junior B, by close to the Windsor, Ontario area. And from there I went to Lake State, played in Lake State, didn't play a lot. We had a really good goalie, a couple of really good goalies that played well ahead of me, and Jamie Platt and Matt Violin, who was a draft pick of Vancouver at one point. So I played there for 3 years, and then I went to York to do my teachers or finish my undergrad, and then I went to University of Windsor, did my teachers college, and played a year in CIS at the University of Windsor, and then from there went to San Angelo Saints in the CHL, and then to the Motor City Mechanics. And finally, kind of settled into Sudbury, which I met my wife at the University of Windsor. And so I said I was never going to go back up north again because I was at Lake State for 3 years. So I went to Windsor, as far south as you can find, and I met a girl from Sudbury, and then I went there for life up north in Ontario.
Okay, you missed one that showed up on the Hockey DB, the Cambridge Hornets.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Ontario? When I see Ontario Senior League, I joked about Sudbury Saturday nights. Is that like the Shoresy famous sort of senior league level that we're talking about here?
That's the senior league in Southern Ontario. So that would be a place close to Kitchener, Cambridge, and we had some great players on that. That was during the lockout. So Gilbert Dion was on that team. Mike Torsha was my goalie partner. Jamie Allison. I think Scotty Walker was playing for the Dundas Real McCoys. So that was kind of my final stop before I packed it in and started coaching and teaching.
I think there's probably some stories from those days, but this is a family program. We're gonna stick to the hockey and the teaching. Not a coincidence though, the transition to coaching. But first, you got a degree in teaching, and I'm wondering, where you see that line, if there is a line, the difference between teaching and coaching, and how valuable it is to have that background and foundation in teaching before you started coaching.
Well, I mean, I think it's really important just because I started off with, when I went to Sudbury, I didn't know anybody. I grew up in Southern Ontario. I met my wife at Windsor, in University of Windsor, and I went up north. So I knew no one. And I started teaching and I started coaching 7-year-olds because my stepson was 7 at the time. So that's where I started, with kids that I saw around the rink and got to know because he was playing against them. So just, that combination or that background in teaching, and having the patience with kids and understanding, personalities and dealing with that on a daily basis in my job helped me out a lot, because that's where I started with goalie coaching, was with 7-year-olds, and eventually built up from there and got to get some older kids. And how the story goes, you just kind of build a reputation, but it started with young kids and just knowing that, just the ability to communicate and understand kids at that age and be around them through my job of teaching helped a lot.
Okay. So at what point, like you go to school to be a teacher, you're done playing hockey. I'm guessing like that's the career path at that point, or at least what you're envisioning. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but at what point did you start to look at goalie coaching as something that was more than just, like you said, working with kids and working with your stepson?
I think it goes back a little bit. I mean, it's kind of a funny story, but I was in college. And so after the year's done, you go home and you get a full-time job, and then you go back the next year for college. So I was working at Home Hardware, which is it would be like just a local hardware store in Canada. I was working at the warehouse. So I was walking up and down an aisle from 7 to 3, the same aisle all day long. And, whatever day it was, but it's a month in, and I'm going, I think I can do something. There's more value in what I can do on a daily basis in the summer to work. And so then I started working goalie school. So that was kind of the turn of playing into coaching, because at that point I went full-time goalie schools in the summer. So that was kind of the turn as far as being just a player to starting to dig into coaching. So I kind of knew along the way that I wanted to coach at some point or run a school at some point because of that. So I kind of kept that through the next 2-3 years. Every time I'd go home in the summer, it was goalie coaching and doing goalie schools. And then I started to run my own. So that was probably the biggest transition there, was just walking up and down the same aisle for 7-8 hours a day and saying, I want something different. And so that was probably the start of the coaching thing. Now,
your experiences, because, when I look at the timeline in terms of when you were playing, like you're at Lake State sort of 99, 2000 through 01, 02. I'm trying to think, I kind of started talking about goalie coaching and learning about the position myself around 03, 04. I'm guessing you wouldn't have had a goalie coach there. Like this is in an era where, like there were guys in the National Hockey League in 03, 04 that still got up off the wrong foot. Like there was the structure of the position had started, but it wasn't everywhere. So where did you, like where does the technical background come from for you? Was it mostly just experience and been there? Or are there guys that had mentored you to that point as you start coaching and teaching whose philosophies you believed in? And walk us through, because we got the teaching side. Now, what about the technical side? Was it more than just been there, done that? This is how I played. Where did the other elements start to get added?
Well, I did have a goalie coach in junior in Chatham. It wasn't a ton of technical work, but he ended up being a goalie coach in the OHL. So there was a bit of a beginning there. And then when I went to Lake State, I did have a goalie coach in Terry Barbeau. And so he was outstanding. He's still
there's a name I've heard from Ryan Miller over the years as a major influence on his career.
Yeah. So before he was with Lake State, me and Ryan Miller were in the same class. We're the same. I think he's a year younger than me, Ryan. So he would have been with Terry in Sioux, Michigan, maybe a year or two before I was at Lake State, and Terry was our goalie coach. So I was lucky to have Terry, and, one of the best human beings, one of my best friends still today. And obviously a guy I still call on and lean on, but he's just been an awesome mentor. So I started to learn the goalie coaching side, in junior, but then obviously got a chance to be around a guy for 3 years in Terry. And so that was kind of the beginning of me seeing that side of it through someone else's eyes. And then I end up going to York University. We had a guy there, but I'll be honest, and it's not the goalie coaching, but when I obviously love the position. I wasn't a really good, I didn't have a really good career at all. But I love the game and I love the position. When I went away and didn't have a goalie coach, because of my passion, I started to look through those eyes. Even when I was still playing, I started to look through those eyes and learn from, watching goalies. Actually, Eddie Belfour was a guy that I watched, and I went from being an aggressive, reactive goalie, and I watched him transition into being very simple and deeper in the net in Toronto, and I kind of patterned my game off him in the University of Windsor. Now, did it work? Not necessarily for me because I didn't have the skill level, but I started to look through those eyes as a goalie coach, even when I was still playing, partially because I didn't have anybody. I didn't have the GPS going. I had to be the GPS at that point. So, but I also had a passion to look through it, from that lens because of those guys that I had before.
So I got to ask, where does the love for the position, that passion, where does it come from? What do you love about it? It's a big question.
I just think the way I grew up was, my father was a massive hockey guy. He basically relates, any analogy is going to come to either hockey or bunting in baseball. I think part of it's the way I grew up, and it was something that it was the thing that I loved to do that didn't feel like work, that I always wanted to do. And because of where I grew up and road hockey and pond hockey and all of that stuff was available, and you didn't have any other distractions to take you away from that, that's just something that I always did. And I'm not 100% sure exactly what the moment was. I just think it was just a growing up and just being in that environment and loving to do it, whether it was playing road hockey or playing in a game or watching it or playing Sega Genesis and playing hockey. It was just kind of in me, I guess. So
starting junior, as you move up in goalie coaching in junior, working in schools, was there a point where, are you chasing where you are now right away? Did you see that as the end goal? Was there a point where it became a more realistic goal?
I think the biggest thing that I started chasing probably was just trying to start my own goalie school. That was, I would say no. It wasn't to, when I started coaching, I want to be an NHL goalie coach. I just think I wanted to be involved. When I left playing, I wanted to coach, and I wanted to be involved. And I'm going to a place that I know no one, because I'm going from Southern Ontario to Northern Ontario to live my life and start a family. And goalie schools became something that I did a lot. I wanted to start my own. And so it wasn't really about coaching in the NHL. It was just, how do I stay involved here? And because I loved playing and I loved everything about the game and I didn't want to lose it. So how do I stay involved? Well, I want to start a goalie school. And then, I got into a midget team in Sudbury and worked from there. Obviously having an OHL team gave me something to shoot for. So for sure, I want to be involved in a team. I started that, but I just wanted to stay involved. And so starting a goalie school and getting on with the local midget team was my start and kind of where I began that journey in Sudbury.
Washington hires you in 2016 for the 2016-17 season, first year in Hershey. Mitch Korn hires you. Walk me through that process a little bit, as much as you can, and that relationship. How did it start and sort of how it developed?
Well, so I'll correct the dates a little bit. So 13-14 was my first year in Hershey. So I was in Sudbury in the OHL in 12-13. 13-14 was my first year in Hershey. And that was
I'm going to blame hockey, lazy research and Hockey DB on that one. It doesn't show up on there till 16-17. So my fault for not doing better homework.
No problem. So Ole was the goalie coach in Washington, and then I became the goalie coach in Hershey. So that's where it started. And then there were some changes after the first year, and Barry comes on, and obviously Mitch is coming with Barry because of who Mitch is, and he's a Hockey Hall of Famer, in my opinion. He's one of the few goalie coaches that should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So that's Mitch Korn, not just as a goalie coach, but as a human being. So I ended up going out to Mitch's goalie camp in St. Louis to do a practical. So he called me and we talked. We got along on the phone. So he said, hey, before I make a decision on you, let's get a chance to meet each other. So he said, he's doing a goalie school because he does them all summer. So it had to be quicker. And so it was St. Louis. So I flew out to St. Louis and we got a chance to spend 3 days together. I got on the ice with him and, you go on the ice and you go out for dinner. So you get a chance to know somebody. So that was the process of getting rehired to stay on in Hershey with Mitch, was going to see him, talking obviously first, and then going to see him at St. Louis and getting a chance to know him. And obviously we know what type of human being he was, but we got along well and worked together well. So that was the process of getting back on with Washington through, with Barry and Mitch at the helm.
Mitch moves up into more of a director role. You move up to the Washington Capitals. That setup, that concept, I mean, maybe not the first, but certainly one of the first to have that sort of director overseeing everyone on the same page. Alex Westland gets hired to work in Hershey, who we're also massive fans with, and now he's with the Detroit Red Wings. Is that an ideal setup? Like, maybe not everybody needs to have three, because not everybody does, but how did you see that setup, and why do you think, what made it work?
Well, number one, Mitch was an unbelievable leader in the fact that we all had great relationships, and he was very trustworthy of what we were doing with our direct department, Westy and Hershey and myself in Washington. And so he oversaw what was going on and never ever tried to, he just didn't micromanage. He trusted us. And then when we'd have questions, he was there to support us. So that was a huge reason why that setup worked, was because he trusted the people that were working under him. And when there was support needed, he was there, and he did it in a way that we felt like a team.
Is it was there like group think discussions? Like, I think of like Finland, where you get these coaches coming from different regions, sort of the first ones to do that, and they'd all come and share ideas. Like, I'm envisioning that there.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of phone discussions, obviously together for a while at training camp, development camp. So you get some FaceTime together. And then he was, he'd come for 6-7 days a month to Washington and 6-7 days a month to Hershey. But we talked a lot. And so there was a lot of discussions, whether it was, Westy and Mitch, or me and Westy, or me and Mitch, or all of us together. There was just a lot of discussions, but it was a team. And Mitch did a really good job at being the leader and overseer, but also trusting his people to do their work and allowing them to get experience and feel it and find out some things about what they're doing. And then when there's support needed, he was there.
Now that first year, like, that can't be an easy transition. You're stepping up into shoes that he had previously occupied. You're working with Braden Holtby as the number one goaltender, guy who already had won Vezina Trophy with Mitch. What's that transition like? How do you go about quickly building a relationship with Holtz and sort of making that jump, not just to the NHL, but into the role previously occupied by, as you said, and I will agree 100%, and we're making this push all the time here, a guy who should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What allowed it to work?
Yeah, obviously Mitch being who he is and allowing me to jump in and not and him staying in the background and just kind of being that person that is there for support and overseeing that helped a lot. And so I jumped right into the fire. Knowing Gruby and being with Gruby for 2 years in Hershey, obviously bridged that gap with him. Braden, I think one of the key things was just, we got a chance to go to BC before the season started. So that helped. So it's just me and Braden in BC. And we got a chance to do some work and get to know each other and end up staying in the same villa. when we first met each other. So now we're hanging out and we're seeing each other and getting to know each other socially, not just in a working environment. And I'll be honest, like he's one of those guys that I'll remain friends with and do stuff socially with all the time, just because we just have the same kind of demeanor and mindset and the way we approach ourselves and our life is very similar. So that probably was the easiest part. Was it feels like we clicked as people, me and Holtz.
On patios in Kelowna.
That helped. That didn't hurt.
It must have been a good relationship, because it was strong enough to overcome the annoying video guy that was there with you for those 3 or 4 days in Kelowna, always nagging and asking for things. So I apologize for that.
No.
I forgot about that was the first year, and that would have helped build that relationship.
Sure. Yeah, we had no choice. If we didn't get along, it would have been a tough 3 days, but that was a good start. And it wasn't a year without adversity for Braden. Gruby was pretty consistent and was one of those guys that was knocking on the door of being a number one guy, and he was putting some pressure on, and Braden went through some ups and downs, but that's a tribute to who he is as a person and a character. And, when his back was against the wall, he put his head down and he went to work and he made some adjustments. And then, he eventually got an opportunity again at the end of the year, and you could see his game come in the last 5 games of the year. You could see that trend, and then he got put in, and the rest is history. So, so it was an interest. I mean, and it took time with Braden more than Gruby, because I already had the time with Gruby. But Mitch, being who he is, and the way it was set up, where he was hands off but there for support, allowed me to dig in and not and make some mistakes and find out more, and fail and learn more, and eventually, because of our relationship socially, me and Braden, it became a successful one.
How hard is it to balance that when you build a relationship with a guy, but you're also still like, he's the boss of his game, I guess, in some ways, but your job is to get it to its best. Like there's probably moments where, I guess maybe because Braden's so driven, not so much, but like, are there moments where you got to be a hard ass, where it's got to be tough love? And does it tough to sort of find that balance at times? Especially, whether it's at the start of that relationship or towards the end of it before he left Washington.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge. Stepping into that role with him was harder to find that. It was easier with Gruby because I had been with him before. We were together for 2 years, so that was already established. Is that ability to, find the buttons to push that worked for Gruby. To do that with Braden took me a little bit of time, and obviously having a relationship and having them know that there's care for each other helps any scenario. But finding that line where here's some tough news, here's some things that you got to do, and some non-negotiable stuff took some time, but with that trust in that relationship, the strength it had, or we built, helped that along and allowed us to make some adjustments later in the year when he wasn't playing, and also a big credit to him that when his back was against the wall, and he's just a blue collar hard worker.
And not bad for your first year in the National Hockey League. It ends hoisting the Stanley Cup. Like, when you think back to that, like, what thoughts go through your head? Stanley Cup champion, name on the cup forever, doesn't go away.
It was just a fun. We've all been on teams, we've all played on teams. It just, even though it's at the highest level and guys are getting paid a lot of money, it felt like the same thing that a junior player would feel. It just, our guys were so fun to be around, and they wanted to be around each other. And it was just one of those things where, even though it's 2 months longer than you have to play, it felt like they wanted to keep playing even past the 2 months. So just the fun, how enjoyable it was to be around those guys, and watching those guys just want to be together on a daily basis was fun to watch. And because it goes back to why we play, and no different than a junior team that isn't getting paid a lot of money. They just want to hang out they have a choice at the end of the regular season what they want to do. Do they want to be there for a week? Do they not even want to get there so they have a longer summer, or do they want to be there as long as they can because they just love being around each other, even though they sacrifice some stuff later in the year?
You talked a little bit about seeing his game coming. And shameless plug for InGoalMag.com. We've got the video series from a presentation you did at a Western Hockey League symposium that we broke down into multiple parts, sort of that has video sort of showing some of that work. But for the audience that maybe doesn't subscribe to InGoal Premium, that hasn't seen that, can you walk us through what in your mind were some of those keys to his game coming, some of the things that you were focused on, and some of the mechanisms that you used to sort of help him find that game late in the season so that when he does get back in early in the first round, he's prepared to basically just keep going and help you guys, backstop you guys to a Stanley Cup?
I mean, we've talked a lot about tracking. I mean, obviously his ability to move and read the game and understand the game and the stuff that Mitch built, as far as how he controlled his body. I mean, how fast and athletic Braden was, but just the efficiency that he did things, after being with Mitch for that long. I mean, Mitch did an unbelievable job at controlling that athleticism and making everything easier. So we talked a little bit about tracking and getting his head to continually work, onto the puck so that some of those lateral plays that maybe he wasn't as successful as, shots from the slot or tip stuff or whatever, they felt a little bit easier. So that was one thing that you could see over the year. And by the time, you're sitting there doing some drills, you go, oof, like this looks pretty good. This looks pretty easy for him. So that was one. And one of the biggest ones, to be honest, when he was kind of going through his rough patch and Gruby took over for a bit, was he was starting to really sink back into his net, which created some problems with his feet getting wider. Obviously you lose some depth and some position on the ice, but you lose body position too. So that was one area that we really dug into, and I give him a ton of credit because it was quick. It was like, hey, do you see this? Yes. And he would admit at the end, he goes, I knew I needed something. I needed to adjust something. And so that was a big area where he was starting to sink a lot when he couldn't see pucks, and he would start to sink early, even when he kind of saw them. And so that was a big adjustment tactically that we made during that time where Gruby was playing and he wasn't playing as much. And then I give him credit because he fixed it quick and it didn't go away.
Oltz, Grubauer, Samsonov, Vitek Vanacek, now Darcy Kemper, Charlie Lindgren. Like, you work with some really great goalies, still are working with some really great goalies. Has anybody had the body control that Braden Holtby has? Like, his ability to control his body, but then also to take a concept. Not that I haven't been around it like you have, but I'll never forget that those 3-4 days in Kelowna, to take a new concept and put it into action on the ice. I'm not sure I've seen anybody do it as fast as him.
Yeah, he does have his control there. When Braden was going, it was funny because it almost looked like it was too easy at times. I remember talking to Franchon, he said there's times where I watch Braden where it's like, we're not beating him tonight. Where he makes a save, he's not even looking at the puck. And so I do think he is a super athlete. I think his hockey IQ is very high. He's an old school guy that just understands the game. He was a student of the game. He just grew up with hockey at that time. And so he's a student of the game. I do think the work that Mitch and him did together was huge because he was already a good athlete. He already read the game well, but everything became easier. So that big save, instead of being a reach, became his body there. And he has a natural ability to control his body once he kind of got that technique and some of those things that helped him do it and keep things together. It was impressive to watch. It was impressive because he had speed, he had power, he had all of that. He had body control. His limbs really worked together well with the work with Mitch, and that made everything that he did, which was elite, easier. And so now he's in position more and he's bigger in position. So seeing that was impressive, and then adding some stuff in. But you see it with a lot of the elite goalies out there. But his body control was impressive.
How much do you use it? Like, obviously, during that presentation, we saw a lot of video. How much do you use video just for your own sort of monitoring and things? And how much do you use that video when you're recording guys doing things, whether it's in practice or video? I guess everybody uses game video, but practice video, do you use that with the guys? Do you review that with the guys? Or is that more just for sort of your own, for lack of a better term, sort of tracking progress and being able to look back at how things looked on the ice?
We video enough practice with our team, but I'll videotape most goalie ice sessions. Most of it's just to kind of see how things are looking. So they wouldn't see a lot of that. But if there's something that sticks out where it can help them, then I'd use a clip or two from the goalie ice video or from practice video, just to augment or help out what we're talking about, or what the focus is, or if they need to see something visually. Sometimes guys just want to see it visually and how it's looking. So I'll use that, sparingly. Obviously game video is a little bit more frequent, but practice video and goalie ice video, we do tape. But I don't overuse that. It would be more
for you
on a need to use it basis.
Okay, so on game video, like, is it mostly just like reads and tactics and being on the same page, or are there times where you're looking at mechanics and movement and things like that as well when we get into game video with your goalies? And again, I guess, do you have to walk the line on not giving them too much in those sessions and or do you present it like, hey, what do you see here? Like, how do you manage video and, game video with your goalies in the sessions? There's probably a lot of coaches listening right now that are eagerly making notes. Like, how do I do this better? How does Scott Murray do it?
Well, I've done it a bunch of different ways, to be honest. I've done it where we've got a system that we can put the video, into a platform that you can mark the video and then send it to them and they can see the marks. So it could be them reviewing it with my marks in there. A lot of times we'll do it live together. Sometimes you just take out certain clips and just look at an area that was either really good or maybe need to be a focus for that practice. I've sent the raw video to guys and they mark it up for me to get their point of view without kind of forcing my information into their head. So I've done it a bunch of different ways, and they all kind of seem to have a purpose. It is a fine line between how much information do you want to get them, so you're not, they know their game very well. They're the masters of more than anybody, the masters of themselves in their game. And it is a fine line at trying to say the right things, but not saying too much where it becomes a thinking game.
You've got a third goalie for practices. You got. I didn't realize you guys had a past relationship, but the video coach there, Brett Leonhardt, steps in. I saw when you guys were here in Vancouver that you used him as a practice goalie. It's something I've been advocating for years here, as you know, the idea that, sometimes those practices aren't the healthiest for the goaltenders to take part in all the time. I'm not saying that we don't have to take part in them, but sometimes, especially the workhorses, a day off is nice. How have you incorporated Brett into your practices, and what's your general view on sort of the way we run practices for goalies, at all levels of hockey, not just in the National Hockey League? Are there some better ways we could be doing things? What do you look for to look for ideas on how maybe to improve that environment? Because it is one that sometimes, it's not just that it's not goalie friendly. At times it can be almost goalie detrimental.
I mean, obviously it's nice to have Brett for sure around. For this year, we've used him more on, an optional skate. If Kemps is playing a lot and to control his energy and where he needs to feel, he needs that rest is the weapon versus getting on the ice, then Brett would step on. So it's more on that side of things where it's stepping in on an optional. We had those taxi squad years, and I would assume that if you talk to goalies that was probably, in my opinion, the best setup, because I don't think it's necessarily for the goalies to take a bunch of days off, because I think it's important for them to practice and stay sharp and keep their skills sharp. And it's hard just to do that in games. Like, you have to, the talent code is a book. Like, if you don't have deep practice, now part of that can be through the game, but if you don't have it, especially in a certain area, then it's hard to keep it. So I think there has to be practice. Where I like it the most is when the third goalie, and I think it's important, because if you look at any soccer team, I'll use soccer, they got 3 goalies. And in games, goalies, they're moving, but they're only seeing 5-6 shots a game. So they're seeing less action. Now, there's movement in soccer for sure, but there's 3 goalies on those teams on the world stage, and, in the premiership, whatever, there's 3 goalies. I think the biggest value for a third goalie is not to give days off, but to be on the ice. So the rest to work ratio is just a little bit better and a little closer to what a player would see, where they're going 3 times or 4 times and then they rest. So they go 1 time and they rest for 3. Whereas a goalie's 1-to-1. Always it's 1-to-1. And then, so now we got, if you look at deep practice, which is how do you improve your skill? You got to live on the edge of being comfortable. It's hard to live on the edge of being comfortable when you're just trying to survive. So I think it's more about having a third goalie on the ice for every practice, whether it's an optional or not. And maybe it's just for the starter for that practice where he's, in and out with the starter. Maybe it's for the backup. Maybe they're in a 3, whatever it may be, but just to get deep practice that's quality, that they can push the envelope of being uncomfortable more than what they do, because it seems at times it's survival.
And survival obviously puts us in situations where you're just getting by and you're not sort of grinding on the details that are necessary to sort of get that valuable type of practice. Yeah.
And it's in a game, it's a huge difference in a game for a goalie than a practice, the output. It just is, the players are, if you look at, there's some games where goalies are, there's the other team's in the zone for a long time. So you might get a more of a taxing game, but for the most part, the output in a practice versus a game is very dramatically different for a goalie.
Would you do anything else differently, like in terms of practice setup? Like if I handed the reins over, I'm starting my own team, it's the Woodleys, and Scotty, you run practice. How like we see it all the time, lines, rush drills. Like you said, players go on every 4 times because there's 4 lines, right? But would you change the structure of it as well from a goaltending perspective?
I think in general, the more situations the goalies can see that they would see in a game, I think is an area that could make it more beneficial for the goalie. If you look at the game, everything starts off the rush for the most part, other than maybe draws. We get some power play stuff, but once the game gets in the zone, under the hash mark or even at the point, that I think there could be more utilization of plays in those areas where the goalie's, into his post, because you just don't, it's a lot of it's off the rush. And then it might be some power play, a little bit of game action. But I think the more we can, especially in the first 3 drills, make them a little bit more, have them start and be executed from different areas just to get, off the rush from the point with traffic, but then also incorporating in those first drills plays underneath that hash mark, plays underneath the top of the circles behind the goal line, because the goalie's in that position a lot and playing that position a lot in a game. It would be nice to see that repetition in practice in a game-like setting.
We've seen that. I mean, Valaket and Clearsight Analytics talked to him recently about what's changed the most in the game. I think he told me in the last 5 years that low slot line, so lateral plays across the middle of the ice, below the hash marks, have gone up 41% in the last 5 years. Like, that's remarkable. Is that the biggest change? Like we've talked about, everybody's talking about how tough the game is on goalies right now. Is it the east-west movement, and in particular, the amount of it that's happening below the hash marks that is the biggest change? Is it also the biggest challenge, both in terms of goalies dealing with quality chances, but you talked about into your post, out of your post, like the demands it puts on the body as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a position, and they're starting to, some injuries are happening. When you're into the post, it's an awkward position to be in. So the goalies are there a lot. It would be nice to see more plays down there in a practice so that we can, because we see a lot of them in a game. When you look at the puck in the zone, it's under the circles a lot. It's either on the point, it's under the circles, or it's coming off the rush. I think the more we could get under the circles, just so that we can practice that in practice, or see it in practice where we don't just have to turn it on a game, would be nice. As far as the change, I just think there's been a push to provide more offense. I think the game goes through evolutions, and you saw the Oilers score a boatload of goals back in the day, and then it went very defensive, and so at some point it's going to change to combat that. And I think, right now in hockey, there's obviously an importance on defense, but there's also an importance on making it hard offensively. I think you're seeing players work together in the offensive zone to make plays, to support each other, to be options. You might just, the understanding of a quality chance is eliminated. Maybe the shot from the outside, and all of a sudden they're working the puck to the inside. And then when there's people supporting that puck and working hard away from the puck to score, those options are there on the back door. So I just think that push for offense and that work, because it is hard work to play good offense, I think that has been a big evolution in the game over the last little bit. Is just there's an intensity to score a goal, and people are realizing that you need more than one person involved to score a goal. It's not just, it's not just a straight line. It can't be just a straight line attack. So there's more people involved and more people working harder away from the puck to be an option to make it hard on goalies, whether that's through traffic or movement.
And less guys that are able to sort of help you out in front of your own net the way they used to. I'll never forget Braden Holtby telling me that his favorite defenseman to play behind was Carl Alsner. And within a year of that, Carl wasn't in the league anymore because that type of defenseman was gone. So that probably plays a factor as well, like what those guys are allowed to do.
Yeah.
And losing guys that were sort of defensive first defensemen, like there just aren't that many left in the league.
Yeah.
Last one, analytics. How much, we talk about it, I mentioned it just now, like how much do you use it? Like, can it be a tool to help your goalies get better? Can it be a tool to help your team create more offense? I mean, want to know how to score on a goalie? Ask a goalie coach. Is that a part of the job these days?
I think we watch so many goals, especially as you get into an area where video is heavily used. As goalie coaches, when we're breaking down other goalies, you watch a ton of goals. So trends start to show up naturally just because you watch goals going in. So you start to pick up, whether it's on purpose or not, you start to pick up on some of the reasons behind goals, not just the goalie, but you start to pick up what's the step before that that's making things harder. So I think just with the heavy use of video and pre-scouting, that's been it's been something that goalie coaches are starting to be more vocal in, because they just see so many goals being scored. And so it's just naturally you start to see some of the reasons why.
How much has your approach changed technically over the years as a coach? Like, are there still foundational things that were there from when you started way back in, even before the OHL, or is that all evolved for you?
Well, I think the one thing you try to do is simplify your message over time. And so, I remember being a coach in the OHL and or even before that, and maybe running a goalie school too, where you're trying to pick on everything. You know what I mean? And so I learned from Mitch on that, how to simplify and get to an end result without saying so much. So that's always a constant evolution. Just like anything is the more you can the more efficient you can be with your communication, so you get the same message across without saying so much, has been kind of an evolution for me. Because I remember when I first started in the OHL and then in pro, and you'll learn over time, you try to pick on everything, and that doesn't work. So just finding those key areas, those key foundational pieces for each guy, that you can fall back on, that are part of your verbiage consistently. And then, asking questions a lot more. And these guys know their game well enough, and getting their opinion and trying to come to a solution together, building that partnership versus, when you first start out and they're young and you're gung-ho, you're trying to look like you have all the answers. Well, that's not the case.
You said verbiage is part of that, especially like you got 2 new guys this year in Darcy and Charlie Lindgren, who you've never worked with before. We all use different phrases sometimes in the goalie world to describe the same thing. Do you have to make sure that your dictionary is the same as theirs? Is that part of the starting process? When you use certain words, they understand, and do you have to build that a little bit at the start of a new relationship so that when you talk about tracking, or when you talk about something in terms of post integration, or you talk about rotation, that they understand the concepts the same way that you see it in your mind, in your mind's eye?
I think communication is obviously a huge piece of any relationship, or any coach to player, player to coach, or coach to coach. So I think communication and simplifying it is important. I definitely did a lot of research with some of the guys that Chucky and Darce have been around, that have been an influence on them as goalies, to try to get to understand what are some of the key pieces to their puzzle. That was, one of my first projects, and then talking to them and getting their thoughts on some of their key pieces, and what words they use and what things that are important to them. And they've all played for a number of teams. They've all had a number of goalie coaches along the way. There's certain things that are very important to them, that have lasted a long time, that you want to find out, so that you can keep that in their game and in their process. And so talking to the goalie coach that they've had over the years, and then confirming that with them and getting their thoughts, was an important part. So that communication, at least we could hit the ground running, versus trying to figure all of that out within 2 weeks before the season started.
Nice. Okay. I said last question 4 questions ago, so I got to let you go. I know you're laughing. What folks don't realize is that there was an hour conversation that preceded this 45-minute conversation. So I basically kept Scott away from probably a dinner with the other coaches, probably lots of other things that are going on. So Scotty, I can't thank you enough, buddy. It's always good to catch up with you. It was nice to see you guys come through town, and I appreciate the time on this road trip. And I know our audience is going to really enjoy this.
Anytime, Kev. You're the man. You are the man.
Scott's the kind of guy that I would almost feel intimidated in the same room. And he's a great guy, but being in the same room, because he's such a deep thinker of the game. He takes it all in and is processing it while you're having this conversation.
Yeah, I love listening to him. And speaking of which, at the bottom of the show notes for this podcast episode over at InGoal, Darren, we've linked, I think it's 7 different videos that we published with Scott over the years, all from a talk that he gave to a WHL goalie coaches conference. And you can hear a lot about his belief about tracking, and how he teaches some of that tracking with his goaltenders at the National Hockey League level. So yeah, he's a fascinating guy to listen to, and I would love to just be a fly on the wall to soak in what it's like to work with him.
Boy, tracking, I don't know whether it will ever lose its predominant place in the game. Like it just keeps coming up, and it should. You'll giggle at me for saying it won't lose its place in the game, but it's almost like it's as important as skating and everything else. The physical skills, that puck tracking, be able to improve your game just by being able to follow the puck.
Yeah, 100%. I think we know we could talk for hours about this.
And it might be the most misunderstood part too.
100%. And how often do you hear somebody talking, oh, his tracking was off, his tracking was good. And I don't think they really even know what it is that they're looking at, because it is so much more than just looking at the puck. It's about how that watching the puck affects the biomechanics of everything you were doing on the ice. And it's a specific way of looking at the puck, not just your eyes pointing towards it. But let's not go down into that rabbit hole. You can get a taste of it if you head over to InGoal and check out those videos with Scott Murray. And I'm sure we'll have lots more coming down the pipe, because tracking is an incredible and important part of the game. And Scott is certainly a fantastic guy to learn from and listen to.
Puck tracking and hockey sense. What was your terminology for hockey sense earlier when we were talking about Brian? And the ability to read plays and follow it. It was just read the game, right?
Yeah, just read the game.
That's hockey sense to me. Read the game, hockey sense. They
hockey IQ,
yeah, that type of thing. We talk about it all the time with players. Great physical attributes as a defenseman, but questionable hockey IQ. Goaltenders have the same challenges of you can have great physical abilities, but you need a hockey IQ.
Well, and being a geek, I talk about having a database as well. Like you can have all the skill in the world. You can be an incredible skater. You can track the puck. You can, be a great puck handler. You can have great hands. But if you don't have that database of history to rely upon, to pattern recognition, right, is something that Mitch Korn and others talk about as being a key to goaltending. And you have to have that database to draw on so that you can recognize what's happening in front of you.
I'm on the other side of the border, so we call it database.
Do you really?
Yeah, I don't know.
What did I say?
I asked somebody once, Megan Chaika. Megan, great analytics personality. And we were having this awesome conversation one day, and I said, is it data or data? And she didn't even know. And she's like all over. Oh, that's what she does. Numbers.
I probably use them interchangeably. Basil or basil?
What are we talking about? The plant?
Yeah.
Basil. If we're talking about the player, Basil.
Okay.
Basil McRae and Basil.
That's funny.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, remind everybody about what's available over at InGoalMag.com, because we're inside of 3 weeks here.
19 days to go till Christmas as we are recording this, probably fewer when you are listening to it. If you are doing your Christmas shopping for the favorite goalie in your life, head over to thehockeyshop.com, head over to sensearena.com, and please, everybody, head over to InGoalMag.com. Premium subscription, less than $1 a week. You can also get on the new premium podcast channel if you want to add something else for the goalie in your life. Those two things, by the way, you can buy them online. So you might have forgotten the goalie in your life on Christmas morning. You can still get over there and grab a present. So
good.
We are open for business 24/7. Come buy something for the goalie in your life, or the goalie parent, or the goalie coach, or just a head coach who needs to learn about goaltending.
How about for yourself? That's what I'll be doing. I'll be getting in touch with you and Cam both on Christmas morning to work it out.
It's been done. I've seen people put their own name in the gift form, from Bob to
yes.
Bob. Yep.
Love it. Thanks to Cam Atwiff, as well as Scott Murray over at the Washington Capitals. And on behalf of Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison, I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast. Have a good week in goaltending.